which was completely insane, because it isn't a weapon. It's simply a contrivance for planetary suicide. And our weapon is a very specific thing. Our sword is a weapon. And notice it's pointed and sharp direction. Because then you learn, first thing you have to know about using a sword is where to put it, where to point it. And so it is selective. But things like biological warfare, poison gas, and nuclear bombs are not selective. And you don't know when they're going to blow back on you or which way they're going, what the consequences of them are. The only thing you can do with them is you can pile them up and start lighting matches in the powder magazine. This is a very dangerous game. People might play with each other. Well, we're both sitting in a powder magazine, and I dare you to drop that thing. We'll blow ourselves both up if you don't do what I want. Now this isn't strategy.
Sensation of the habit is basic for we will explore. With that in mind, we can go on now to the question of pain and our so-called reactions. Once again, you will see that the problem as posed immediately sets up the duality of the pain of the one who suffers. One who offers resistance. And therefore, reasoning from that, you can quite easily see that a great deal of the energy of the pain is derived from the resistance offered to it. And that resistance takes very many forms. Not only of attempts to get away from the pain that is present, but suppose try to run away from a migraine headache. As you carry it with you, you can't get away from it. It seems to be absolutely in the middle of everything that you are. So that however much you thresh and resist, the pain goes with the threshing. Other forms of pain are problematic to a large extent because of our prior anxiety about them, and because of the valuations that we put on them. We may as well start from that point. And what we very largely dislike about people in pain is the noise they make. When I challenged R.H. Blythe and said, "You're a vegetarian, but don't you realize that plants have feelings?" Yes, I do, but they don't scream so loudly. And so, you say in a hospital or any place like that, it is taboo to scream. Because you must understand that hospitals and any institution of that kind is run for the convenience of the staff. All institutions are. So, everything is done in such a way as to interiorize, localize pain, or in a way that makes it worse. So we have a big social problem, fundamental, right from the beginning, about our reaction to anything painful. And these are very odd things. Let's take, for example, when a child has eaten something that doesn't agree with it and it vomits. Now, you well know that when you've got a bad stomach, vomiting is a very pleasant relief. But because when Mama sees the vomit, or somebody else does, they say, "Ugh," you are taught that doing it is socially unacceptable. Therefore, people suppress vomit and learn from their parents that it's nasty, just as they learn that excrement is nasty, just as they learn to worry about disease and death. They learn to worry about
get into the unitive world underneath, underlying and supporting the everyday practical world. There have to be certain alterations in one's common sense. Now there are certain ideas, and beyond these ideas certain feelings that are difficult to get across, not because they're intellectually complicated, not at all because because they're unfamiliar and strange. We haven't been brought up to accommodate. In exactly the same way that in past times, people knew that the planets were supported in the sky because they were embedded in steel crystal. And if they weren't embedded in steel crystal, and of course you could see them because you could see through them, they would fall down on the earth. And now when astronomers finally suggested that there were no crystal spheres, people felt unbelievably insecure. They had a terrible time assimilating this idea. Now do you see what it involves to assimilate a really new idea? You can do quite clever. Some people whose number system only account for quantities. 1, 2, 3, many. So they don't have any concept of 4 corners to the table. The table has many corners. And they pile of pebbles in that sense equivalent in next to the 4 corners of the table. Now they have difficulty in beginning to assimilate the idea of counting through and numbering all those corners of those levels. But we've done it. So to us that's perfectly simple. But imagine the kind of mentality, the kind of person that is not simple at all. Now in exactly the same way, there is here what I'm trying to explain. A new idea that most people don't explain. That is the idea of total interdependence of everything. The Buddhists in Japan call it Jiji Bugin. Jiji is between thing and thing, between event and event, there's no problem. And they represent this imagistically as a network. Imagine a multi-dimensional spider web covered in dew in the morning. And every single drop of dew on this web contains in it the reflections of all the other drops of dew. And of course in turn, in every drop of dew that one drop reflects, there is the reflection of all the others again. And they use this image to represent the interdependence of everything in the world. In other words, if we give this dewdrop image, if we put it into a linguistic analogy, we would say this: words have meaning only in context. The meaning of any word depends upon the sentence or upon the paragraph in which it's found. So that if I say this tree has no bark, that's one thing. And if I say this dog has no bark, that's another thing. So you see always that the meaning of the word is in relation to the context. Now in exactly the same way, it were not the way it is, you would not be the way you are. The line of connection between what is, it is, and you are is very, very complicated. Also, we could say, if a given star that we observe didn't exist, you would be different from what you are now. I don't say you wouldn't exist, but you would exist differently. But you might say the connection is very faint. It's something that you don't ordinarily have to think about. It's not important. But basically it is important. Only you say, I don't have to think about it, because it's there all the time. See, for example, the floor is underneath you all the time. Some sort of floor, some sort of earth. And you really don't have to think about it. It's just always there, it's always around. If you become insensitive, you stop thinking about it. But there it is. So in the same way, our subtle interdependence with, mind you, it's not just our plain existence, it's the kind of existence we have is dependent upon all these things. Also our plain existence, but that gets way down. But the fundamental thing is existence is relationship. In other words, if my finger out here is all alone and the wind doesn't move and nothing touches it, it stops knowing that it's there. But if something comes along and does, immediately it's aware that it's there. So, you see, it takes two. We could have so much fun, but it takes more than one. She don't want it. But in this way, what we call duality